How's it? Today's April 13th, Monday. It's a back squat day. It was not very good. It was terrible. I'm supposed to do about 3 sets of 10 at 225 or so. The numbers I believe he said were 55 to 60% of my goal weight. And like 3 sets of 10 at 225 should be easy. Like realistically, if I'm healthy, I probably could do 3 sets of 10 at like 300 or so. But 225, I couldn't even do a single set of five today. Um, so that's happening with my hip. Um, it's okay when I do air squats, and it's okay when I do an empty bar. But once I add weight, it just feels terrible. Um, it's really hard to really explain here. Um, it's today it was less in my adductors, so less on the inside of my hips, but more on the kind of the crest of my hip, like I think that's like the iliac. That's that's basically where the psoas or the main hip flexor crosses the hip. Um, it wasn't like a sore, or it definitely wasn't as sore as last week. There, I just gave up on that set. It definitely wasn't as sore as last week. I think it was a lot more of a nagging pain, nagging issue. Where some reps it hurt, some reps it didn't hurt. Like, yeah, here I give up there. On some of the sets, when I push through, my legs start to shake because I just can't. It just doesn't feel powerful, and I feel weak. Here, see with the air squats, they feel fine. I can get to depth really quickly, and I can push out really quickly. But with the bar, everything is really difficult. Yeah. I messaged Steve, and he said basically just don't be too tentative. Just don't be too scared to get to. I'm struggling there. Don't be too scared to get range of motion, but also definitely don't go all the way down. Yeah, yeah. I was very close to just quitting altogether today, and I haven't done that in a very long time. Um, yeah, it was really upsetting. And I told Steve that I probably can't squat for a while, and he just was like, "Okay." He said it's okay. Maybe I should get it checked out. And he was saying that it sounded like it was more of a hip flexor issue today than anything else. So that's notable. And then he was like, "See if you can do the pin squats or the dead weight squats." Um, and basically, I could do it. I could do them all with relatively no pain. The only times I had pain was if my hips started to shoot forward while my knees were still bent, if that makes sense. Um, so that would kind of, if I'm understanding it correctly, that would put my hip flexor, it would put direct pressure onto my psoas, my iliopsoas complex, to keep that's basically prematurely extending my hip, but if my hip flexors are tight, then extension of the hip is really difficult. So um, it it's not as serious of an issue, I don't think. After doing all these pin squats, so um, I'm gonna try to deal with it on my own for a bit. I did message Derek last week, to ask him his opinion about what he thinks it could be. I tried to give him as detailed history as I could with all my symptoms and everything. And he also mentioned that it could be one of two things that would basically be addressed with the same set of exercises. So he said it could be an adductor issue, which is what Steve mentioned last week. And then Derek also mentioned that it could be a hip flexor issue, which is what Steve mentioned today. So I'm going to do my best to work on those exercises Derek gave me and then stretch out my hip flexor to give it some time to just get better and get improved. So all of the pin squats, they weren't difficult, or they weren't painful. They were kind of difficult towards the higher weights, but I got up to 275 with pretty easy workup. I did 10 total sets. It's the first time I've done pin squats ever, so I don't know how I'll behave with heavier weights and stuff. So I just was going small jumps between every set, and I was trying to keep everything in line and push just like how I would push when I'm pushing out of the hole, just to give myself the closest chance to feeling what it is like. So Steve was saying that imagine if I can pin squat a ton of weight and like I continue to do my single leg squats, which by the way I couldn't do today. That's an issue that I'll discuss later. But he said that if I can pin squat a ton and still continue doing those single leg squats, I should be able to squat 180, 190. I mean, obviously it won't be easy, but I should still have the strength to do it, assuming that my hip isn't a too serious issue. When I talked to him on the phone during the workout, he kind of reassured me that it's definitely not something serious, or well, in his opinion, it's definitely not something serious. And the reason he says that is because if it were like really serious, I would be hurting a lot. And so it does, because it doesn't hurt all the time, it seems a little bit less serious. I also did mention to him that when I'm trying to run, if I'm trying to run around sometimes, like if I'm chasing my dog, then like it does hurt. So that was his initial inkling of saying, oh, it might be a psoas issue. And the reason why that is because the psoas is such a huge player in hip extension, hip flexion, and lots of things that your legs are required to do. So yeah, again, like I said, I'm gonna just try my best to address it in the least aggressive way I can. Maybe if in a week or 2 weeks it isn't a little better, then I will definitely seek help. I just don't want to go through all the trouble of going to a primary care physician, then getting a referral, then getting an appointment again to see somebody else. And I'm not even sure if any of those people are open, with everything going on, the Ronas. So that was my last set. That was 275. And then after that, I moved into doing some pull-ups. I had 5 sets of 10 for regular pull-ups and then 10 sets of 5 on the chin-up. However, I was running out of time because I did have a class very shortly after this. So I only did 5 of the chin-ups. And here's the set here. This is my first set. But I only did 5 of these because I thought that the circuit would be a little bit more important than the actual chin-ups. 10 sets of 5 is a lot, so it's kind of easy. And so here's my circuit here. 4 rounds of 25 each with just the bar. I did Zercher squats here, and did good mornings and then I did some bent over rows. I know that the technique here is terrible. It's really bad. However, um, I think if I wasn't rushing as much as I was today, my technique would have been a little bit better, and I would have executed better on the reps and sets. This was really challenging for me, just keeping my head down and working. I was dripping in sweat. It was very, very, very gross. Um, but yeah, that's basically all it is today. I think these circuits are working in some capacity, so that's kind of exciting to think about. But yeah, that's it for today.